show you how dynamic this can be. So if you come to MSP2, one of the things that's fun for me I guess, is we do make you run multiple epic drifts.
Critical incident stress debriefing. It's a small structured meeting divided into 7 stages. Discuss group reaction.
And I wanted you to see what this looks like. So they receive a report of a possible case, and then they find out it's different than what they thought. Now what? So they build an alpha scenario, they search and they evaluate their alpha, only to find out at the end of their alpha that their scenario was not what they thought. It was something completely different. And so they have to determine what they're going to do with that. So what you end up with is that during this epic that they had with me, they had to do an alpha, Charlie, a Bravo, or alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and a reverse drift that actually took place after Charlie. They actually close the case, reopen the case, then suspend the case. It is a major pain in the butt, but it is all within the realm of possibility because every single case that we created in MSP2 was based on actual cases. But, as you all know, is this case likely? No. If you've had more than one in your entire career, then you've completely been snake bit. Good luck on that. I, however, have managed to have a number of nasty cases that have all taken place within my times. So it's very, very possible. But the probability of it happening on your watch doesn't change anything. You still have to be the one it happens with. I have issue with this. If I had to get on my soapbox, I'm not a fan of the way that we do search and rescue anyway. I would think if it were up to me, you'd have a 1-800-SAR-OPS and you just got somebody you call and they help you out and be done with it. If it was up to me, we just completely move it. I could get into a whole different side on that and why I think that way. But my point is that I want everyone to be going in and as they're looking at it to realize that they have to break down their methodology and they have to look at it as your major case can happen at any time. Do you think that anyone who was on watch during the beginning of the Jupiter Inlet case knew that they had a major case at that point, at initial notification? No. Same thing with the firefighter case that then took place later on for Jacksonville. They didn't know they had a major case. They didn't know until later on that it becomes a major case. But again, all of the survivor possibilities still existed in each instance. It existed in alpha. But neither watch ever thought that they should be looking for PIW during alpha. So I'm trying to make sure that you all are breaking that paradigm. We're not searching for the PIW because we're looking at it and going, well, the highest POS is going to be on the bigger object. That's the wrong way to go about it. We need to be looking for the possibility that if there are people in the water, let's go ahead and try to search for that and plan for that. And be pleasantly surprised when we find out that they're actually fine and they're inside the boat. But you can't do that by just telling SAR-OPS 3 hours PIW optimized finish. Like you said, we end up with these huge 0.1 parallels and they're terrible. It won't work. We have to break all of that down into something that makes sense. So, I want to show you what happens as we get into these reports. If I go into their planner in alpha, their planner POS was based on, they had a 45 and they have a 65 coming out, right around darkness. They split it right at darkness. Because again, sunset is not darkness. Just so everybody's clear on that. You have 30 minutes. And so they have all this information here. So they would expand up and look at this. This is alpha 1's information. This is alpha 2's information. And here's alpha 3. And what they find is that the cuddy cabin is pretty much gone by the end of alpha. Pretty well. Okay. So they're forced to start figuring out what they want to do with this information. Why this becomes important is because as they move into Bravo, I want to show you a couple things. One, I want to go straight into their planner. So if I'm into a multiple day search and I'm getting into the Bravo, or even I'm still even just hours after the first epic, I want to show you what happens when I go into this planner.
These structures can be singular, meaning they can be by themselves, or they can be additive. They can add on one another or they can just happen simultaneously.
They brought out 23, still using 65, using the brand. This is a deactivated pattern, that's why it's this dark color, because they realized that it was more effort than he needed. See how this has this coverage factor of 0 here? This is because they did a multi-sensor search, they did a radar search, but they didn't tell it it's radar and visual. So it only did a radar search. So that's why they only used it for the amount of time they did, because they got really good coverage on that. So they said, hey, we're gonna go ahead and hit it real hard and remove the possibility of the swamp capsize boat, and then I'm gonna use the 65 and then start focusing on the PIW possibilities. So they're using all this information in their POS reports to help them figure out what to do and why. But when they get down to this would be at the end. However, this will not match this. This one will match this number. But the net gain is 32, but that's net gain is because it's saying in addition to alpha. It went up 32% from alpha. So if I brief my SMC and they say, what's my POS? None of these are that number. This was for you as the OU to realize when you needed to shift objects and when you needed had too much coverage and when you needed to move from one thing to another. That's why this planner POS report is internal, it's for you, the planner. So if you're briefing from this in alpha, it's only because alpha matches. But when you get into Bravos and Charlies and Deltas, they will not match. I'll show you what I mean. So I would want right-click POS report. And this is saying that as of alpha, as of sim end time, 0430, my POS was this from all the searches last night. A joint of 21%. But if I keep looking, it's only going to look for what's remaining. Swaps won't look for what it's already found. Doesn't make sense. So it keeps looking for what's left. So if you look, I can go up basically 80%. Well, my plan is this. And now I'd be briefing out to my SMC some of the thought processes, when the POS was changing, when my targets were changing, what I was looking at, and as of 1330, these would be my new options. Based on this, at 1330, we don't have an upright boat or a cuddy cabin or a swamp capsize boat. Based on the effectiveness of our radar search and based off of everything else that we're doing, as of 1330, I think we're focusing on either we're in the wrong spot or we're focusing on a PIW search at this point. The wrong spot I can handle by moving into Charlie and opening up some error and opening up some possibilities into Charlie. But if I think that we are legitimately in the right spot, we're in a PIW search now. And he said, as you can see, they knew that the guy didn't have a life jacket on, so they moved without PFD and with scuba suit. So do you see how this numbers break down for you, and understanding all of this to break this down and explain it? Because if you can't break this down and explain it, how are you going to know what you're doing or why you're doing what you're doing? So lo and behold, they do all of that, only to find out they still have it wrong. It changes again in Charlie. In case they had to reverse drift it, figure out where it most likely came from to figure out what happened, and then they go forward with the Charlie drift. And when they go forward with the Charlie drift, Charlie now was going to tell you how this new simulation, how effective Alpha and Bravo were against the new simulation. So this is why it's important, because if we don't change the search area, nothing's going to change. We can keep doing rinse repeat, but we need to look at, are we in the right spot? If we don't think we're in the right spot, for whatever reason, we owe it to create a new simulation to do it. So then they do this. You'll do your first run after your simulation, you'll get this. As of 12:30. And it says, you didn't have a shot. The PIW scuba suit, yeah, you didn't see anything. So at this point, I'm briefing the SMC, hey, based on new information, we've moved our search area over to this other area where we actually found people at. I'm doing a search for the PIW scuba suit. Unfortunately, all of our previous searches are completely ineffective for this area. Helpful for an SMC to know that, right? That, well, we haven't searched this water yet. This is why. And then I'll do a plan. So now my plan will pretty much, whatever numbers I get out of here, will all be the same. They'll be the same as like what I'm going to look for in the planning chart. But now we're going to head it with a whole bunch of stuff. And this is all broken down for just the PIW. And they went ahead and split, moved on, and did all this other fun stuff. You can see what happens when I finally armored people with how to do this. They start doing all kinds of fun things. It's pretty fun. And then they get this. They say 40%. They're like, man, that's still pretty crappy, but it's the best I can do as we move through. So you could break this down into saying it's 4% at POS at sim end time or at SRU completion time. which is at 2250. You could say it's at 40% at 2250, or you could have gone back and said, you could have broken it down by the different times. Because the 65 is getting 5 and 4%, they're probably gonna do it in significantly less time, see? So, we can't put all of our eggs into it will resolve itself in alpha basket. If we're wrong, and we did all of our searches at 1,000 feet, or for a cuddy cabin, or at a big track spacing, whatever it is, how long do you think it's gonna take before we finally change our assumptions? Anybody? Just curious, if you get an overdue and your first watch does a whole bunch of things, what do you think, how long do you think it's gonna take to change and go into the next option?
Depends on how long it takes you to effectively search for your cuddy cabin if you're going with progression theory.
Yes. Prior to this class, or now with this class, I would say that all of you would go through the progression theory and look at how long it's gonna take. Prior to this course though, or prior to even this little bit of this, I would say that the majority of things we're not changing until the next watch came on.
Pretty much the,
Or the Hilo lander for fuel.
Yeah, something else, some other decision point. So I'm wanting you all to realize that by POS, and because it's broken down by time, it's also going to help you figure out when your reevaluation points are. Hey, at the conclusion of this, I don't think we necessarily are looking for an upright boat anymore, so I think we need to go back to the idea of, are we in the right spot? If we're not in the right spot, then I think we need to open that up as a possibility, put in new scenarios. But continuing to look for the cuddy cabin with where we're at isn't gonna make any sense, because the SROPS isn't gonna help us anymore. So there's a lot of things we could be looking at. We could go back and say, okay, let's open up some of those scenarios. Maybe we can go back and say that, okay, well, maybe we are in the worst case scenario. Maybe we should be opening up. Maybe they didn't go over what we thought. Maybe they went to this other location. Why I think that needs to happen is because I have seen a number of cases where we are well into the case and we are not making the assumption or not changing our thought process fast enough.